kindness and niceness are not the same thing. Niceness is this like inherently avoidant strategy to like not ruffle feathers, which is really a self-protective, fearful move. When you avoid the truth, but you like play the plastic nice game, it's like that doesn't actually, like, that's not leadership. It's flimsy, it's plastic, it's hollow. And people at least in my experience, the people who are the highest performers with the biggest hearts, they want you to tell them how you think about their performance, about their feedback, about their abilities. Like they want to know, because otherwise they're like, man, I'm just out here guessing what this like quote unquote nice guy wants to do. And
welcome to the Leadership Disrupted podcast. Today we have with us Justin Ricklefs, who is the founder and CEO of Guild Collective, a brand consultancy that helps companies grow healthy brands through clarity, connection, and creativity. He worked in the front office of the Kansas City Chiefs for 8 years. So of course, we're going to be asking Justin about Taylor Swift. Justin is an entrepreneur with a love for Kansas City and a vision for what marketing does when it's rooted in strategic storytelling. His recently released book, Give a Damn, is a collection of stories showing how modern leadership is at its best when curiosity, compassion, clarity, and consistency compound each other in a virtuous cycle. So, Justin, we're going to give you a chance to explain all of that to us and tell us what we're all itching to know about Taylor Swift. However, let's first have you just share anything about your background that you would like to kind of fill in the storyline before we dive deep into, first of all, the book, Give a Damn, and the lessons from it.
Oh man, Dan. Well, first, it's just a pleasure to be with you, and I'm intrigued by the way that you see the world of leadership and the way that you influence folks. You know, we talk about in our small business that leadership is not a title. The intern can lead, and it's a way, it's a practice, it's an opportunity. And so, yeah, I'm grateful and intrigued to learn from you two here as we have time together. I mean, there's like long versions of all stories and kind of condensed ones, and certainly it's a messy journey the human experience is. And so I grew up in Kansas City. I'm the youngest of three. My folks got divorced when I was in middle school. I chased a girl to the University of Missouri who was a high school sweetheart on and off. She's now my wife, or I'm her husband is probably the more appropriate way to say it, of 23 years. We've got 5 kids, 4 of which are girls, 1 of which is a boy, 8 ranging age from 22 down to 14. So there's a lot kind of like in the accordion. If you stretch it out, there's a lot of weird stuff in the middle and a lot of beautiful stuff. But started the Guild Collective business. We're coming up on a decade, which is wild to believe, but formally 9 years old. And I know we'll get into some of that, but there's no lessons learned like the ones that come through real experience and oftentimes pain. And so I've learned a great deal about what not to do, and happy to share some of those lessons with you today for sure.
Pain is so instructive if you're ready for the lesson. And then if you're not ready for the lesson, generally the pain will come again and again and again until you are ready to learn whatever that lesson is. So, you mentioned, hey, you like the way I see the world of leadership, that's great, but it's not a pretty picture. That's the challenge I have. I admit I'm a bit of a cynic. I am a bit of a downer. I honestly, and part of that stems from the fact that 9 years ago, I wrote a book called Workplace Poker. And that book was about navigating office politics.
Oh, man.
Good book, published by HarperCollins, modest little bestseller. It opened a lot of doors because I included my email address in the book, and people started emailing me saying, hey, read the book. I am experiencing this at work. Any advice, any suggestions? And it wasn't I didn't intend to become the Dear Abby of the workplace or anything like that. But what happened is I was solving problems or just giving guidance and advice, which still happens to this day. At least once a week, someone sends me a situation, and we bounce messages back and forth and talk our way through it. But of course, those stories aren't the stories of, hey, I thought I would email you just to tell you how great my boss is. And wonder, it's the worst. It's the worst of the worst. Hey, my boss brings 2 Rottweilers to work and they scare me and I don't know how to talk to them about it. It's those kinds of stories. And so I know you get exposed to those day in and day out. It does affect how you see the workplace. So I think it's a tough place, and it's getting tougher. And so I like talking to people like you because you're a very optimistic guy. You've got a nice optimistic energy, but I think you also see the real world of the workplace. So maybe let's start with the book. What prompted you to write Give a Damn?
Yeah, honestly, stories like that. One of the opening scenes that kind of spilled out all over the keyboard as I sat my butt in the chair to do the work was a boss of mine who said we were instructed to have a mandatory meeting in 15 minutes. Marched the whole sales team. Nobody knew anything about it. We get instructed via email, mandatory meeting in 15 minutes. Literally what the title of the email said. And there's I don't know, 6 of us on the sales team, and we. Of course, instantly you get that. You have 14 minutes and 59 seconds to gossip and figure out what the hell, can I say that word? What the hell's going on here? And it's you fill in this gap of worst case scenario, right? And so we march into the room, the HR director's in there, the boss comes in, the boss sits down and tirades us for a few minutes about how badly we missed the mark on the sales goal for the month or quarter. I can't remember. And in that comment, the boss says, I'm ripping out some of the specifics, but the boss says, "You are an embarrassment to the owner." And I'm like, hang on. Is that the first instinct is oh, can I please you? And can I make you love me? And can I get your approval back? And then the second, more grounded thought was is that even true? Does the owner know that you're doing this? Would the owner approve of that? Did he or she, the owner, send he or she into the room to say this? It was just absurd. And so that was one, because same thing, it is incredible what corporate entities are allowed to get away with in terms of the humanity of how they treat people. It's check that shit at the door, right? And it's well, I can't. I'm a human. I got all this other stuff mixed up in my being and my life and my desires. I don't understand how I'm an embarrassment to the owner when the owner isn't even in the room. So all that to say, but the book, I started to contrast that with some of the caring leaders that I got to learn from and experience the goodness that comes from that. And again, it's not this black and white. It's never this simple, of course. But I traced it back, and it's oh my gosh, I actually wanted to, in a good way, run through a wall for the caring leaders, coach, leader, mentor, parent, whatever. And then when you contrast that with this unhealthy command and control, crazy, you said, the pessimistic, dysfunctional, unhealthy, of which I've been that person, no doubt. At times, I'm hopefully growing more towards the caring side, but those types of experiences, really F with people. They really damage people, and they take it home, and then they take it out on their partner, kid, or friend, or neighbor, or whatever. And it's it doesn't generate good. It just it evaporates, right?
You trigger me with that word damage, because I think it's so true. I haven't really thought about it that way, but you do deeply damage people, even if you don't fire them. just by making them feel like crap for a day, for a week, or generally speaking, I've got to go back into work, into this
100%.
environment because I have to put food on the table
100%.
and I have to make a living, and I might look for something else. But I'm amazed at how it's either there are just a small number of bad leaders and they get around, like they move around a lot, or there is a large number of leaders who are not great. No matter what you hear from Simon Sinek or Brene Brown or all the motivational sayings on LinkedIn, in the real world, there are just a lot of leaders who seem to live in a bubble. Like they and inside that bubble, they're doing great. Inside that bubble, they're driving people, they're making changes, they're making things happen, and they don't realize the damage that they're creating outside of the bubble. Even just by making somebody feel like they're not good at what they do or good enough at what they do, when nobody wants to do a bad job on purpose. So if you have an employee who isn't doing a great job, shame on you, Mr. Leader,
100%.
for not working through that, because they're not doing it intentionally.
100%. Yeah. I mean, and at its, another little story that I didn't answer your question about why I wrote the book, but we're
going to get to that. We will,
but like,
in a circuitous way, we will make our way to your intent in writing the book.
Such is my life and my writing too, actually. But I had a different boss one time say, "Hey, can we just be honest? Everybody's using each other for their own gain." And I was like, I mean, obviously now I know what you're doing. At least you're honest with me that that's what you're doing. But it's like, is that like, you wouldn't do that to a neighbor? You wouldn't do that to like a beer league softball buddy, or you wouldn't do that to your kid. And so I was like, why do we get away? Like, how is this okay? And again, I'm not projecting that I've got the answers. I just am exploring this stuff because it is like, you can read a LinkedIn post about leadership, and then you have this like actual messy human exchange with someone who you're like, I need to give that person feedback that this like performance wasn't up to the standard, without like having any level of shame or personal attack. But it's also like, you can't avoid talking about the performance of the work in exchange for being nice, right? And so anyway, that it is a weird, I've talked about this before. It's like, it's a bloody battle. Like, work's a weird place, and you don't normalize how to use your point, like the damage and the destruction that can get left in people's wake if you're not aware of what the hell you're doing.
And leadership's a weird thing. One of the nicest leaders, because I love to talk about being a human leader, being a kind leader. But I will tell you, one of the kindest leaders that I've experienced was dangerous, because he was so kind until his career was in danger. I mean, a truly decent, kind, loving person, except for some reason, people kept leaving his department. People kept moving on to other places, or were let go. And what we ultimately came to realize is, for him, it was just an accountability shell game. I'm being Mr. Nice Guy, very nice,
100%.
Couldn't be better. And yet, when push comes to shove, if someone's going to have to go overboard, he was going to position someone to go overboard, someone to take. So when a project was looking like it wasn't going so well, someone else got pushed to the fore to take on that project or own that project or own that account. It was really weird. It was like his niceness was his manipulation. It was strange.
I know that game. I know that game well, Dan. Like that's my disease. That's my like bad, the unhealthy part of my leadership that I have to like continue to get better at. And I mean, even like today, I had to make a courageous move to tell the truth to someone, as opposed to just like, oh, it's no big deal. I'll be nice. I'll play nice. Kindness and niceness are not the same thing. Like niceness is this like inherently avoidant strategy to like not ruffle feathers, which is really a self-protective, fearful move to like, oh, well, at some point then I'll just like a caged animal, like I'll just back you into the corner. I'll devour you because I wasn't able to be courageous enough to tell you the truth 6 months ago when the freaking thing happened. And Kim Scott wrote Radical Candor, and that book, like, honestly, really shaped something for me because she put it, had to be like beautiful quadrant, and one of the leadership quadrants was ruinous empathy. And I was like, damn, that's when you care high, but you don't challenge directly. And you don't, which in other words is like, tell the truth. When you avoid the truth, but you like play the plastic nice game, it's like, that doesn't actually, like, that's not leadership. It's flimsy, it's plastic, it's hollow. And people at least in my experience, the people who are the highest performers with the biggest hearts, they want you to tell them how you think about their performance, about their feedback, about their abilities. Like, they want to know, because otherwise they're like, man, I'm just out here guessing what this like quote unquote nice guy wants to do. And at some point he's going to like you said, bury me over the edge of the ship. It's terrible.
The most uncomfortable question I ask during performance reviews now, and I only started this a few years ago, and you have to be very tender with it because it's an uncomfortable question for you, the leader, but it's also uncomfortable for them, is toward the end of the performance review. I always make sure I've given, like, I don't leave this to the last 30 seconds. You have to give it enough time for them to answer. But I will say, so we've covered everything else, and I have one more somewhat uncomfortable question. I really want to know, how am I doing for you? How am I showing up for you as me, a leader?
Love that.
If you were going to give me some guidance, some advice, if you were going to tweak how I operate, what might you share with me? And I have to be very tender with that question. Absolutely. And I have to recognize, as uncomfortable as it is for me to ask, because I do not like critical feedback. I'm
for sure.
I need it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, sure.
But I know it's more uncomfortable for them. But it's a great question because they see me much more accurately than I see myself.
For sure.
But it takes a certain kind of leader to have the bravery to ask and then act on that question. Ask it, really hear it, and then act on whatever comes out from it.
Yeah, and the receiver has to believe and trust that, like, okay, he genuinely wants my perspective here. He's not just like baiting me into his ego trap where then he's going to fire me. And that takes a long time to develop, for sure.
So when you, the title Give a Damn, tell us, I think I get what you mean, but let's not assume that we understand it. What do you mean by that title?
Yeah. In its most practical sense, I found myself, back in the Chiefs days, it was the first time, as I like reflected back, it was the first time I used that phrase. I didn't make up the phrase. Lots of people say give a damn. People put them on flags. Matthew McConaughey writes give a damn in his book. I didn't make it up. But I found myself saying give a damn a lot. And as I sat down to write the book, it was in response to that your exact question, which was like, cool, give a damn's now in Guild's core values, or we call it our heartbeat principles, but the way that we behave as a business. But it's like, what does it mean? And it's like cool to say, you put it on a sticker or a coffee mug, but like, what does it mean? How do you embody what it means to give a damn? And so I don't love the like neat and tidy leadership frameworks, because it's like, man, when you get into the real world, like that stuff just, it's like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. So it's like, I think leadership is a lot more getting punched in the face than it is the other way. And so where it landed was this compounding, generative, much more organic soul work, really, for the leader to, in its most basic form, the book boiled down, if nobody ever reads it, is how do you, as a leader, apply two fuel sources, effort and attitude. Okay. So how do you like show up with some energy, with good effort? That doesn't mean like intro or extrovert or some certain Enneagram type. It doesn't have anything to do with personality. It's like, can you show up and exude effort, take initiative? And then can you have an attitude of abundance, an attitude that expects that stuff can get better, even in the midst of all the dysfunction and craziness. And then can you apply those two things, those two fuel sources? Can you build a fire? And I am kind of a sucker for alliteration. So can you build a fire with 4 C's, with curiosity, with clarity, with compassion, and then consistently do it? Can you just keep doing it and hang in the game long enough to where the leader, him or herself, begins to change and then has an impact on those in their own leadership circles, influence, wake, whatever example you want to use. So to me, that's what it's like. All right, cool. Give a damn. Put it on a coffee mug. What's it mean? It means show up with effort and attitude and apply that to growing in your own curiosity, clarity, compassion, and consistency.
Someone said to me years ago, don't expect your team to run at a speed faster than you are running. You actually set the pace. It doesn't mean you have to work. It's not as simple as saying, so you have to show up before they show up and stay until they leave. It's not simple like that. They have to see that you're in this game. You are playing this game as hard as they're playing the game. And I did have someone, and I don't know if this resonates with you, but I had someone say to me years ago, it is important that they see the leader sweat, meaning you got to work at stuff. You have to push yourself. You have to take on tasks. You have to be in this. And sometimes it means you will, not succeed or fail. But if they see you working in this, then they will work in this. And now this person said, there is a bit of theater to that, because he said, I don't work hard every day. And I don't expect them to work hard every day, but I do show my work. I need them to see my work. I don't need to just do my work like in secrecy, and then suddenly it's revealed. I want them to see my work, my work activity. And I think they appreciate that I'm in this with them.
Yes.
Because it's easy at a certain point for a leader to build a bubble around themselves and have people who do the doing and do the hard work. And suddenly you're just a presider. And when you're just presiding and all the hard stuff gets done by other people, I think you start to lose your sense or your finger on the pulse of the work that's happening. But also, people know. I mean, I've worked for lazy leaders. I've worked for leaders who have people to do everything. And I know it affected me. It affected my willingness to get in the fight for what we were working on.
100%. I mean, I know you've heard this a million times, but like these kind of traditional corporate nonsense of, well, my door's always open. You come in here anytime. We got an open door policy. And it's however, don't bring me a problem unless you also bring me a solution. Right. That's right. And like my thesis is like 99% of the team will never go into your open door. Like, you get your ass out and go to them and like be curious about them. Ask them how it is for them. Ask the questions of what do they see that you don't? How is the client experiencing this thing? And again, it's not simple. It's not easy. It's messy. I don't do it perfectly by any means. But the mindset of no, like, leadership is not like a point where you've arrived and you're like, what you're describing is like an entitled ego. What leadership actually is like it's an inside out job where you get to benefit someone else by giving yourself away. It's like it's like the most selfless professional act of all is to lead someone. And if if the bubble just keeps getting bigger and nobody's willing to tell them the truth, like, I'd argue that's not even leadership. It's just this like entitlement power game that, you have a cool title and you make more money than everybody else, but no one wants to follow you. It's not leadership.
So I have a hard question for you. I think it's a hard question. Does it feel to you like we're moving in the wrong direction generally? I mean, there are good leaders. Absolutely. But when I step back and I look broadly at like the culture outside of the culture, you have each of these individual corporate cultures, and then the Uber culture around us. It doesn't seem like the good guys are winning as frequently as I would hope for them to win. And then I find, even when I listen to like the stories of billionaires, I'm a fan of Ray Dalio
Okay.
because of his philosophy and his, what he shares. But now, lately or recently, I've heard stories from people who actually work for Ray Dalio. And it turns out when he was actually in charge as a leader, because he's retired now, so he's no longer running Bridgewater Capital. But when he was running Bridgewater Capital, he was an asshole. He was so hard to work for. Now he paid people really well, so they took
Endured
the
it.
slings and arrows. But he was horrible. And so I say to myself, all right, I can separate it out. I can appreciate the philosophy and the intellectual learning that I get from Ray Dalio, but he's not a leadership model for me. And that just seems to happen more and more frequently. And when I've had my exposure to millionaires and billionaires who are leaders, more of them suck than are really great. I'm sorry, it's just true. And it feels like our society in general seems to be rewarding jerks. And I don't, and now maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just this small subset of people I've been exposed to. What say you?
I say, like, you're probably right. Like, there are a bunch of assholes and jerks. And, like, I guess to me, it depends on how you define winning, right? Like, if the scoreboard is only like, hey, your balance sheet went up, your income statement went up, and the quarterly returnings to the investors keep going up and to the right. Like, yeah, people tolerate a bunch of weird crap for that. To me, and my book is like a little bit, some academics would probably be like, dude, you did zero research, you had no focus groups, you didn't quote an article. Like, I don't know is the actual answer. I have my lived experience and my stories that I've witnessed in the real rooms. But like, this quote kind of haunted me in the best of ways, that a Chick-fil-A, a friend of mine owns the local Chick-fil-A. He's the owner operator. And they probably have jerks working for them too. I don't really know. But he said, hey, one of Truett Cathy's quotes he would tell kind of internal people all the time is, care and commerce can coexist. And like, I'm a capitalist. I hope our business keeps making more money and we can charge more. And I hope I sell a lot of books, all that stuff. But not at the expense of the human soul, and not at the expense of the connection that is made with the people that I get to encounter. And it's like, I played a game of like the corporate politic, weird climb and like jockey for position and be kind of performery and whatever. I played that game and I was honestly pretty good at it. And then my world fell apart when I realized I was terrible at telling the full truth. I wasn't necessarily like a pathological liar, but I did not have the ability to tell the truth. And I don't know, like, I just know that it's a simpler way when you don't have like a stage act as your CEO and then a husband act or a dad act or a friend act or whatever. It's like, this is who I am. This is exactly the way I talk to our team. This is exactly the way I talk to my wife. Now I talk to my wife about much deeper things that I'll talk to you about. But like, I just think when you can, the word is so overused that it's kind of annoying, but like, authenticity, when you experience it, you know it, right? And you can feel it and your energy aligns and you can we're like, us humans aren't much different than the trees in the forest. Like, we're all connected by this root system. And like, sometimes you don't trust them and you'll hold them at bay and you'll be like, no, F that guy. He's a total jerk. But like, it still hangs with us. Like, that energy goes into our body. Yeah. Like, man, that time the boss said I'm an embarrassment to the owner, I felt it. I was like, this sucks. Like, I think I suck. And so I don't know the answer. I really don't. But I'm maybe a fool, but I believe that there's enough, especially small to mid-sized businesses who, this is what we're starting to experience here in Kansas City, is like, man, there's a groundswell of people who are sick of that crap, like who are sick of getting treated like that. And they're trying to do something different. They're not perfect, but they're trying to like, that's why I'm like, I think the Give a Damn tribe's really a bunch of cool people like that are like, hey, we don't know all the answers. We're going to plant this flag right here. We're going to spark something that maybe we won't make quite as much money as if we like ran it like a freaking Fortune 50 company would, but like we're going to provide cool places with cool people that make good money and hope that we outlast I love it. It's like, I think the good guys and gals can win. I just think, what are we going to define win as? Like, to me, work shouldn't suck. It shouldn't be this place that you fear and you dread going to. And I know you know it, but when you walk into a corporation, you can feel the damn energy the second you walk in the door.
It's true. And I do think it's important that the good guys win. And I would say to anybody listening to this, if you think of yourself as the good gal, the good guy, your spirit is like the right spirit in the workplace, and you're feeling a little, challenged in your work environment, it is important that you figure out how to win, because the 100%. Opposite they will find a way to win. They know they're in this battle, so to speak. And I think that I have two things I want to say. Number one, I love it when someone shares a little saying. I love this. Care and commerce can coexist. I've never heard it before. So what I do is I write it down. I'm posting it here to remind myself a couple of times so I can embed that into my brain. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, I stole it directly from John Hoffman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and full credit. We will, give him full credit at least 3 or 4 times. And then once it's internalized, then I will just feel like it's
That's
me.
Right.
But also, when you look at the way the world is operating right now, I worry that we have a young generation of employees who aren't seeing the good guys win consistently. They're actually seeing the opposite in many cases. And I think it debilitates them. Who wants to go to fight for the team that's run by jerks? The great thing, we all, not we all, many of us admire the Kansas City Chiefs. We admire that team. That team has a great reputation as the opposite of jerks, as being just like good, friendly guys. And the whole reason, even this will be my last reference to Taylor Swift, I promise. But the reason I do it intentionally,
it's fine.
I have to be honest. I have a couple of friends who are Kansas City Chiefs fans, and they hate it whenever they bring up the Kansas City Chiefs. The only thing I will talk about is Taylor Swift. And it's intentional. It is only because I know it triggers them and dials them up, and I find it amusing. They find it annoying. But
we've got 4. My wife Brooke and I have 4 daughters. We've been listening to Taylor Swift since she was like the 16-year-old with the guitar singing like moderately, country pop songs. So like we're into it, man. Like we've seen every era. I think Taylor was great for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think they have any problem with her being involved.
Well, then, because it doesn't annoy you, I probably won't say it again. It's not having the effect that I wanted to have. But I think it debilitates people when it feels like the good guys aren't winning. We were all kind of raised with books and movies and an environment where the good guys are supposed to win, and it. When someone says something like you said, the owner is embarrassed, you're embarrassing the owner, it doesn't just demean you and affect you, but it affects everybody around, everybody who gets exposed to that. So when someone is treated poorly in the workplace, it's not just that person, it's everybody who observes that bad behavior. It debilitates everyone. Now they may all go inside of themselves because they want to keep their jobs, they want to make a living, but it has an impact. And I'm not a hyper political person, but I have to say, even at that global governmental level, not just in the US, but in other countries, there's this model of aggressive jerks that seem to be taking over. In India, it's Modi. In other countries, there are, it just seems like jerkiness is on the rise. And I would like to push back in the other direction, because if we don't, I will say, even to the jerks who might be listening, you're going to lose them. You will lose them. You want your most talented employees? Treat them like gold. Don't treat them like they're just Lego blocks in a system, and you're just going to plug people in. And if this one happens to quit, you can replace them with another Lego block. I don't think you can build a profitable commerce with that approach.
Whew, come on, man. I'd come to your class on that. I so much came to my brain, but one story in particular. We've got a client who has been with our agency for many years, and they have tens of thousands of employees. They're United States based, but they sell some stuff all over the world. Okay, and they embarked on this. Honestly, it will be like a Harvard Business Review story at some point. They embarked on this very like, I'm trying not to give away all the details because it's a confidential story, but it's a production environment. Okay, so not like your typical white collar corporate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent multilingual survey to all of their employees. And when they just to like get their feedback, like, how's it going here? What do you want? What do you not like? What do you love?
Mm-hmm.
All that basic stuff. When this like super fancy Chicago research firm distilled all the data, the number one recommendation from these thousands of employees was, I want my supervisor to know my first name. Literally, like, as human as it gets. Like, dude, call me Dan.
Yeah.
Don't call me bro or dude or guy. Call me Dan.
Hey, you. Yeah.
Yeah. And the humility that it took for this like giant organization to shift their focus towards again, it is like to be curious about the person. What's your name, bro? I've been calling you bro forever. That's a humble thing to say as a leader, to be like, I don't know your name, actually, janitor. What is your name, ma'am? Right. And so they reoriented their whole business, and they are just absolute. This is where I'm like, I'll share the details with you specifically later, but they are dwarfing their competition. They are running laps around them in terms of like fully crewed staff, efficiency of machine, mm-hmm. efficiency of production. All the like businessy outcomes are through the roof because they realize like, oh, we want to, and they've done a million other things too, but like, we're going to make it a policy that we know everybody's name who works here. And it's like, quite literally, I'm not a damn like number on a spreadsheet. And for them, they put it on their hats. They're like, okay, cool. Put your first name on your helmet because that way I can help. I'm a leader. I'm a kind of dumb idiot. I want to know your name is Dan every time I see you. Hey, Dan. Hey, Dan. Hey, Dan. Hey, Dan. And guess what? They love working there now. And they already did. Like they're kind of like forced to work there, right? So anyway, I get emotional about that because like that is human connection at its best.
To be a senior corporate leader and humble enough to recognize that is an issue. The fact that we don't know each other's names, man, that's an issue. And then to take action on it, that does say a lot. So, if you're giving guidance to leaders in general, when I read through how you describe the book, Give a Damn, a collection of stories showing how modern leadership is at its best when curiosity, compassion, clarity, and consistency compound in a virtuous cycle. I mean, there's a lot being said in those words. Tell me a little more about that. And maybe we dive a little deeper into consistency, because I think it's not a one-off, or it can't be, hey, I use your name on Tuesday.
That's right.
Maybe Wednesday and Thursday, and then I drop back into my normal way of being. But I think the challenge with consistency has to do with oftentimes time. Leaders have so much going on. There's so much put on their shoulders that changing behaviors becomes a challenge, because a lot of the behaviors that we want them to adopt require more time. I think. Sure. Although, how much more time does it take to use somebody's first name? Maybe a microsecond.
For sure. Yeah, I think the consistency is the hardest one of all four, right? Like you can be curious for a moment. You can be compassionate when you feel like it. You can give clarity when you have the desire to give a bunch of context and bring other people into conversations you weren't in, all that stuff. But like to show up and do it every damn day is hard. And again, I'm writing this book for myself too. Okay, so I'm not saying like I'm the chief consistency officer. I'm not. But the compounding is, and I'm not a financial analyst, but like compound from a financial standpoint looks like nothing for a long time. For a really long time, it looks like nothing. And then all of a sudden it looks like this crazy growth. And you're like, holy crap, where'd all this come from? You're like, well, because we just did this like $50 a month investment for the last 40 years, bro. That's how it got here. And so the same is the principle is the same for consistency and leadership is like, don't surprise make the example. We'll go back to Chick-fil-A because it's on our mind.
Sure.
If you rolled into a Chick-fil-A and the team member, after you Apple paid your $14 or whatever, and you said thanks, and they're like, yep, you'd be like, wait, what? Like, you're supposed to say my pleasure. And so like you can survive one or two yups, right? If you're the 16-year-old working there, but if you don't fall into the standard of the brand and start saying my pleasure, then you don't get to work there for long. And so the consistency is like, okay, we're gonna be imperfect people, but we're gonna stick to this thing for the long haul. My football coach in high school called it stick-to-itiveness. It's like we got to just like hang in long enough to let that resilience muscle build and let the habit kick in and let the humility come back and let the curiosity keep showing up. And then as a leader, it's like you got to own the stuff when you screw up, and like you got to say like, hey, I didn't lead with curiosity at that point. I'm really sorry. And they're like,
I've got a friend who is he's a franchise owner for I think about 20 different Taco Johns throughout the upper Midwest.
Cool.
And fundamentally, the Taco John's business is pretty simple. I mean, you're making cheap Mexican food out of beans and rice, and
5 or 6 ingredients. Yeah.
Yeah, and one could easily look, and they have a fairly high turnover rate of employees, so you could easily look at those employees as disposable. Hey, we're going to hire someone, plug you in. You're going to last maybe 4 months, maybe 6 months. So we're going to train you up. We're going to upskill you, but we're not going to put a lot of money into you because you're going to be gone in 6 months. Well, so this friend of mine has a totally different philosophy just because of who he is as a person. And he invests in his people. He invests in his community. They take a percentage of profits from the stores in any city or region, and they invest it back into the community.
Awesome.
And they make that part of their marketing communications effort. But they also know that if we let all of our employees know that a portion of our profits go back into the community in this very specific way, it's not, they don't, in this case, they support muscular dystrophy. No, I'm sorry, my bad. It's cystic fibrosis.
Got it. CF. Yeah.
CF. So CF is their choice, and so they take their profits, they invest into CF, and they let the community know, they let the employees know, and what of course he finds is that by treating his employees well, by treating his community well, the employees are actually proud of working for Taco John's. Now, they may still leave in 6 or 9 months, but for the time that they are working there, they're proud to say to somebody in the community, I'm working at Taco John's, because the community knows that Taco John's invests in the community. It's part of the community.
Yes.
It's a completely different approach to just flinging tortillas and beans or cheap Mexican food at people.
Yes.
And it works. He's very successful, very wealthy, and his retention rate, people still leave, but he keeps them longer. He keeps them longer, 9 months, 10 months versus 6 months.
And when they do leave, they'll be like, "Wow, dang, that wasn't like competitor taco place that treated me like crap. I felt good about that, and I did good." And guess what typically happens is then the client experiences that energy. So when they roll through the drive-through with someone who's enrolled and committed and engaged in the brand of the business health, who just feels good to be part of the story, they that exchange is just way better than the part who's like, here's your damn taco, bro. Like, it's just better.
And then if you really are connected with your customers at that level, you're not going to, I mean, when you make their burritos, when you make their food, you make it intentionally. You don't just slop it together. And then those employees who leave, they'll come back and still eat your food because they know the care that goes into the food. But it all of that springs from a leader who, to coin a phrase, gives a damn, who cares. Or, honestly, Justin, because you're a nice guy from the Midwest, give a damn makes sense. If you were, let's say you were in the Northeast in New York City and you wrote the same book, your phrase of choice might be give an F, it might be a little harsher, just in order to grab attention.
That's right.
But I'm definitely getting the spirit of give a damn about your people, about your customers, about your business, about your life, about your family. Give a damn. It does take a lot of energy, doesn't it?
It's free, but it's free.
It's free.
Like,
yes.
That's the mind twist on this whole thing is it's free. And there's this image in the book that is a single match. I've got it right here actually. There's a match on the spine. Okay, this is my author copy, so it says not for resale, but there's a match on the spine, and then there's a flaming match on the cover. And it's a long, weird story you can read in the book, but I watched a Catholic monk. I went on this silent retreat in the summer of 2025, and I needed it. My soul needed it. I didn't really know I needed it. I'm not Catholic, but I went there because I was just like exhausted. And I was like, a silent retreat sounds like heaven, like no meetings, no phones, no whatever. Cool. And this monk, full black robe, the whole deal, like real serious. And, he like strikes this one match to like kick off our silence together, lights this candle and he blows it out. He's all like very deliberate about it. And in the writing of the book, I was just like, oh my gosh, like as leaders, we all really do hold flames with us, and we can, candlelight vigil, light up a room and like help other people light their stuff and do a lot of good through the lighting of another person's match. Or we can just like dumpster fire, like burn stuff and cause a lot of damage. And again, it's not either or, it's not so black and white. It's not so poetic, but like that is the power the leader holds. The leader does hold a flame, and they can choose intentionally to help others light their flame or to burn someone else's down because they're insecure, unaware, whatever else.
The power of that leadership position, whether you're leading a team of 3 or 300 or 300,000, but I would say particularly if you're leading a small team, you're so right. There's power in that position to move people for good, to move people for bad. And I think sometimes even our little micro activities, you talk about like a micro action of just using someone's name, the power to do good by using someone's name. There's a flip side to that coin. The bad that you do when you don't make eye contact with somebody, when you step into an elevator and there's one of your workers and you ignore them because they're not worth your time, or maybe you're just busy or uncomfortable or in your own world, whatever it is, it still has an impact. There's this power to do evil as well as to do good. And I think having an appreciation for the power that you have over others, because you are in a leadership role, it's not just an economic power. It's not just a career power. There's this, use the word soul. It's this soul power, a psychic power. It is the power to lift somebody up because of the position you're in. I had an experience, this goes way, way back, I think 30 years ago. I was a new employee for General Electric. I stepped into an elevator. I'd been there maybe 8 months. And a woman executive stepped into the elevator at the same time. I didn't know her. I knew who she was. She was like several levels.
Runs up the chain.
And she looked at me and she recognized that she didn't recognize me. And she said, "Are you new?" And as we started the elevator right up, I introduced myself. She asked what department I'm working in, and how long I've been there. And then she said, "So you've been here 8 months. What's different than what you expected?"
Mm.
And she listened to my answer. When it was a very uncomfortable answer, but and here's the point of the story: the elevator door opens and it's her floor. She could have perfectly reasonably just stepped out, moved on. I would have not taken it personally in any way. Instead, she reaches over. I remember this moment. She presses the button where the door won't close. She presses a button, and we continue the conversation, maybe a minute, maybe a little bit longer. It wasn't very long at all, but she wanted me to finish my story about what was a little different than what I had expected. She had a few follow-up questions. And then we were done. She said, "Well, it's very nice to meet you." She shook my hand, and then she went about her day, and I just sat there with that. To me, that was unusual, and it hit me, and I felt like she saw me. She saw me and engaged with me, and I mean, that energy carried me for weeks.
And Dan, like, she gave a damn about you, and you're telling the story.
Yes.
30 years later. And it's like, that's it, bro. Like, that's it. That is literally it. And I've got all sorts, like, in the book, the protagonist in the story is my number one mentor. His name's Clyde Lear. And I worked for his company right out of college. And I'll never forget, there's a chapter called about Clyde and his cigars, but he's dude, mega rich, like sold a business, made a ton of money, but he exuded care. And I'll never forget this one time he looked me in the eye and he's like, "How's Brooke?" And I was like, "This is CEO of this huge thing. Like, he knows my wife's name." And I gave him like the professional corporate answer. I was like, "Oh, Brooke's doing great." And he's like, "No, like, how are you guys? Like, how are you really? Like, I know you guys just had a new baby. Like, how are you?" And I was just, same deal with your boss in the elevator. I'm just like, I was stunned. He didn't have to be impressive or tell me he's smart or have all the answers. He just asked me a question about how I was. And it's like, I would, to this day, run through a brick wall for that guy.
There's so much magic in that. So, and then there's also the reverse magic, like the evil magic. And I want leaders to know you have the potential to do harm as much as do good. So it's not as if you have a choice to make. So walking out of that elevator without paying attention to that person, that is a choice. That is an action. So ignore absence. Absence doesn't give you a buy. It does. You
100%.
Like if you have the power to do good, there's a certain responsibility, accountability to do that good. If you simply opt out, you're doing harm. You are harming. And I think employees are hungering for leaders who connect the way you're describing. They're yearning for that because they don't experience it very frequently. And you're right. They will walk through walls for you if it's authentic, if it's real.
Yeah, and Dan, make no mistake, like my own journey is marked with ways I've done damage, right? And I mean, I tell the story in the book, ripped her name out. It's obviously not mine to share publicly, but I fired a woman once who reported to me, and I did nothing but flatter her for the time she worked there in those, the distinction between nice and kind. The reason I know that is because I was that nice plastic BS leader who I was like, man, she actually sucks at her job. We made a bad hire here. And I gave her no feedback. I just wanted to coax her enough to oh, great job on that one thing that you kind of did halfway decent. And then it finally got so bad that I did the bark back at her thing. And I was like, hey, today's your last day here. And she was like, wait, what? You've never told me anything other than I'm doing great. What? And I guarantee you that she still holds me in the same vein that I hold that you're embarrassed. And I own that. That's heavy, man. And it's heavy. And it's part of why I wrote the book. Is dude, I'm not the beacon here. Okay. Don't look at me. I'm not the guy. I'm just reflecting back the shit that I screwed up. and the lessons I'm trying to learn, and the ways that we do have the power to burn or give with that one damn match we have. And I think it's me, bro. Like I've done it, and I've done other crazy stuff. But the goal is to like, all right, each day consistently, can I grow in my curiosity, my compassion, my clarity, so that we can limit the damage to the extent that we can, and start to build fires with more good.
And you're not alone. I'm not going to tell my stories because I know we have to wrap up here shortly. But man, I've got stories of being just an idiot, just an idiot, and hurting people because of the idiocy.
Yeah.
And when I look back,
for sure.
And maybe it's part of maturing, because most of my worst stories are from me as a leader in my 20s or early 30s. Right. But that doesn't give me a buy. And I know there are people who knew me back then and still probably carry a negative torch or something.
Yeah.
So Justin, I would encourage people to read the book, Give a Damn. I personally love a story that is authentically your point of view, your lived experience, what you see in the workplace, and you don't use research, you don't use data as a comforting blanket or as a way to create an illusion of authority. Not that those things aren't good. Data is fine, but and in fact, I'll share a piece of data with you. For over 30 years, major organizations have been conducting national and global employee engagement surveys. And I know this because I started tracking these surveys 30 years ago. And every year, these national surveys of employee engagement show a discernible shift downward year after year after year. Cynicism on the rise, engagement downward. A couple of blips, like during the 2008 financial crisis, there was a blip downward and occasionally a blip upwards. But the general trend is year after year after year. The data tells us employees are more and more disengaged from the workplace. They are more and more cynical and distrusting of their leaders, to the point now where, when I was a young man, you go to work, you probably instinctively trust your leader until proven otherwise. Like, I assume you're the boss. I'm going to trust you, trust that you know what you're doing until proven otherwise. What the data tells us today is it's the opposite. It's your job as a leader to earn my confidence, to earn my trust. I'm going to look at you with a what's the phrase, gimlet eye. I'm going to look at you suspiciously, and I'm going to give you a chance. But I, the employee, am watching you, and you'll either prove me wrong, or maybe you'll surprise me and you'll turn out to be one of the good guys who's incredibly competent. That's tough for leaders. That is, you've lost that weight of authority.
Yes.
And no matter how much you try to push it, no matter how much you try to force it, that power is fading away.
Well, yeah, it is. It is. And I will get long-winded on that topic, but you are 100% right. And it makes me rethink my optimistic stance. I'm like, dang it.
No, I don't want to do it. Oh, I don't want to infect you. I've infected you with my cynicism.
No.
So
no, but it is like, it's the human condition. And like, you can't, as a parent, when the kid is 4, you can say, well, do what I say. And like, why, Daddy? Well, because I said so. Like, that works when they're 4. When they're 21, it's like, hey, like, what was that like for you? Like, like corporations are so backward. Like, yeah, cool. You've got a big title and a big office. That doesn't mean you've earned any damn thing. Like, and we're advising our own kids. Like, you should be very discerning about who you go to work for. like very discerning, because it will have a massive impact on your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health, depending on what energy source you walk into.
And I've said to I have a 27-year-old son. I've said to him, look, yes, you need to make a living like anybody else.
For sure.
But don't ever give away that part of you. I would rather you call me and say, look, I need to quit. Look, I need to do something else. I need to find, I will take care of you. I will make sure, because I will not, it's the worst thing to let an employer suck your soul out.
100%.
And so, yes, I think the message of give a damn